Doing? All right. Good evening, fellow immigrants. Uh, how is everyone doing? Thank you guys for joining me. All right, all right, all right. I see people joining me from TikTok, from YouTube, from Facebook, from Instagram. How are you guys doing? I'm glad to talk to you today. All right. Don't forget to say hello when you come in. Let me know that you're here. And if this is your first time joining me, please be sure to let me know. And please come back again to join me for more lives. So, for those who do not know me, for those who are joining me for the first time, my name is Ifeoma Odunlami. I'm an immigration attorney from the Odunlami Law Firm. Our firm is in New Jersey, but we are an international law firm, and that is because we can take clients from all 50 states because immigration is federal law. So if you have an immigration issue, humanitarian, family-based, give us a call. The number to call is 973-207-2367, 973-207-2367. All right, guys. Thank you for joining. Let's get started because I have some news I want to share with you guys. I know everyone's been listening to the news because immigration is such a hot button topic these days, and there's just so much going on. Every day there's something different. So I just want to come on, talk about some of the new things that have come up, how it affects you. And so if you know somebody who is a non-citizen, be sure to send them this link, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you will always know when I come on, because as of yet I haven't gotten a fixed time. So I basically just come in as soon as I have my work done and I have time to get in. So Oyas OZ, thank you. This is your first time. Thank you for joining me. So so typically I'm going to give you a couple, update you with some of the news, some of the things going on, and then I will take some questions. And sometimes I don't get to all the questions, but that doesn't mean that I'm ignoring you. So go ahead and leave the question on the chat, and I typically, go back again to take a look at it, and I will try to discuss that or answer that question at the next live, okay? So Marwayne, thank you. Marwayne05, thank you guys. So let's talk about last week. We got information that the Trump administration had pretty much halted all international student interviews. And these are interviews abroad. So this does not have anything to do with people who are already students here. And it does not stop you from changing your status. If you're already here, maybe on another visa, changing your status to a student visa, which is F1. However, if you are abroad and you're trying to get an interview, to get your F1 interview, that's not going to happen anymore because there's a pause. So the government is saying that they want to establish better screening, more screening, additional screening on international students, and so therefore it's going to pause the interviews until it has until it prepares the expansion for the vetting. So this spring, we know that this administration has had its in for international students. This spring, it basically terminated, revoked international students' service, and automatically that would mean that their F1 was terminated. There was a lot of lawsuits, and most of them got reinstated. And so this second wave of attacks against international students, which I think really has to do with the administration's obsession with Harvard University, and their fight with Harvard University is really where this is coming from, because universities such as Harvard, they have a lot of international students. They make a lot of money from international students, as all other colleges do. But it's really just sad that international students who have no beef, nothing, they have nothing to do with this fight with the administration, being punished for one reason or the other. I mean, how many international students really are, out there looking for anything but the opportunity to have their education? They leave their country, they come here, they pay a lot of money. And I tell you this because I was an F1 student as well. And, you're just looking to get your education, and go back to your country or stay here and continue to work. But so this is where we are with this administration and international students. So there are no more interviews being scheduled. But if you've already been scheduled, they will honor it. So if you have a prior interview scheduled, please go ahead and go for your interview. But if you're trying to schedule an interview, that's not going to happen. So, yep, Kadian, yep, I spent, thank you, Kadian, I appreciate the compliment. Spent a lot of money, and I remember the exchange rate is never 1-to-1 with most countries that are in the so-called developing countries. The exchange rate is, I think with when I was in school, it was maybe 7-to-1, which is, I think right now, I don't even remember, is it like 1,500 or 1,600 naira to $1? So imagine paying all that money and having to feel so destabilized because you don't know what was going on, whether you're going to school, whether you're being kicked out. And I think it's really unfair. Yeah, I came to school, Cajun, I was here in school in, I think it was the early 1990s. That's when I was a student here. So, but the administration is not stopping with students. Basically, it's going all out. Let's take the new legislation that just passed, the new bill that just passed in Texas called the Senate Bill 8, right? So this is for my Texas family and friends. Please pay attention to this bill. This bill basically will force local sheriffs in Texas to perform the duties of federal immigration agents by partnering with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And so this bill has passed. The Senate is going to the governor for a vote. We expect, of course, that he's going to vote, he's going to sign it. And so the sad thing about this bill is that although it provides some support through a grant program to these sheriff's offices, all of them are not going to get the money to be able to take the additional work of, immigration enforcement. So basically, they have to divert their limited funds, which they're using to make their communities safe. They're going to, basically put it towards immigration enforcement. And so, does this make people safer? No, because this has a chilling effect. It's going to silence victims. It's going to silence witnesses of crimes because they don't want to tell the police anything. They don't want to get, into the hands of the police, because typically victims of crimes will call the police. But now, if the police is also acting as ICE, guess what? They won't be calling the police, and that doesn't make anyone safer. All right. So it's going to drive victims and witnesses of crimes into the shadows, and that's not a good thing for anybody, not the victims, not Americans. So let's talk about the big, beautiful bill, which is a massive immigration package. So the administration is planning to throw money to building more detention camps, building more, giving more resources to ICE enforcement. And really, actually, that's quite worrisome because, where there's a lot of money and people can use that money for whatever they want to do, it means that, it's really not a good thing. But Republicans are seeking to have President Trump sign this big, massive bill by July 1st. So we'll see what happens. So I hope all of you know that May 29th, there's a lot of changes in the forms. So if you're looking to put in an application, please go to USCIS website and make sure that you are using the right form. If you have maybe filled out an application in the past, chances are you may need to redo it again. So please be sure about that, making sure that you're using the right form for your application. If you're not using an attorney, you want to make sure of that. And I know all of you would have heard by now that the Supreme Court basically authorized President Trump to revoke Biden parole that allows people from Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, and Nicaragua who came here about maybe 2 years ago under the parole program that allowed them to work here, allowed them to live here, pay taxes for a period of time. parole was basically has basically been revoked right now. Over 500,000 people that came here legally, and now have no status, right? So what I'm going to tell to people who are caught in this dilemma is you need to talk to an attorney and see if there's any other pathways for you, because you may qualify for something else, all right? If you need our assistance, feel free to call us at 973-993-1900. All right. So let's talk about, oh my God, this new trend that basically swept through a lot of the immigration courthouses last week. And I think maybe the week before. This is a new thing. ICE is working with some judges, and the ICE attorneys, OPLR, is basically dismissing this cases in immigration court. And once the case is dismissed, once the person, the non-citizen leaves the courthouse or leaves the room, right out there is ICE waiting for them to arrest them and put them in detention, and basically for expedited removal. So basically, people who have been in this country for less than 2 years are subject to expedited removal. What that means is they don't have to have their day in court. So by dismissing those cases against the removal cases against them, the ICE attorneys is, basically opening the door for ICE to basically detain them. So this is what my fellow immigrants should do. If you have an immigration court case, definitely I know you're hiring an attorney because you're not trying to figure it out yourself. And secondly, if you happen to be before a judge and ICE, the attorneys are trying to dismiss your case, ask that you get your day. Don't allow them to dismiss the case, okay? That's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is, if you can maybe have your attorney file a motion for a WebEx hearing, which basically means that you can appear via online. Like WebEx is like a type of a Zoom. You can appear through WebEx, and you don't have to be in person in immigration court. That's something else that you might want to do. And of course, there are situations where the judge may say no, that you can appear by WebEx, and the judge may insist on, may approve what you may call it, the dismissal by ICE, and then there's nothing you can do. But the information I'm giving you, just so that you at least try to see if this will work for you. But the most important thing is you really have to have an attorney if you're in immigration court, because a lot of times there are pathways to getting a green card that are available to you in immigration court that the judge can give to you, and you may not be aware of it. So you want to have you want to know what your rights are. You want to know if there are any pathways available to you, okay, before you go to immigration court. And the same way, if you have an ICE check-in, it's a good idea to talk to an attorney. Some people are going for ICE check-ins and then being detained, and because people who are going for ICE check-ins typically already have an order of removal. So that's actually a dangerous trip to take. So you want to talk to an attorney, and there might be other pathways for you that they may be able to put an application that may withstand some kind of determination that you should be removed from the United States. So I think it's important now to really make sure you're talking to an attorney, or maybe even more than one. I always tell people, reach out to a couple of attorneys, because sometimes one attorney may have one solution, another may have another, and basically it's just for you to get information that will determine what you decide to do. Okay. And I tell you, please, if you have an attorney who's suggesting you break the law, that's not the attorney to talk to. Okay, they're going to get you in trouble. All right, so let's see. I think what we can gather now is USCIS is no longer the USCIS of old. USCIS is now more of ICE. They're no longer in the business, it doesn't appear, of solely providing legal status. In an objective manner. They seem to be looking for basically helping ICE to get people deported. So we're seeing people coming for their interview, immigration interview, where they're trying to get themselves legal status, where they're trying to follow the law, and they're being taken at the interviews. And this reminds me of a case we had. I think this was like it might have been 2 years ago, maybe I think it was about a couple of years ago. I think I told you guys about this case where we had a client who he wasn't our client at this point, but he had gone with his then client and his then attorney. He went with his then attorney, and he went with his wife for a marriage interview. And at the interview, he was taken away and detained, put in Elizabeth immigration, shackled, treated like a criminal because apparently he had an order of removal from a long time ago. This man had been in this country for over 20 years. And his family members came to our office to ask us to assist. And this was like a miracle, I gotta tell you, because literally we fought hard for our client for over like 6 weeks, trying to get the order terminated. And then finally, we got it terminated. But at this point, our client was already seated at the bus, in the bus, waiting for the plane that was coming to take him and deport him. Him and other men were there waiting. And at the last minute, we were able to get the judge to sign the order, which we had the cooperation of the ICE attorney, sign the order terminating the removal. And, you know, we're able to get our client back with his family, with his wife, with his children. And that was just like, that was such, it was such a wonderful feeling to be able to basically stop something that looked like there was just no chance. And I tell you guys this story because I want you to remember there's always hope. There's always hope. My client said that he felt that he would sleep, wake up, and be in his country. He had no expectation of not being deported. But miracles are still happening, okay? Attorneys are still fighting. We're still in court. ACLU is still in court fighting for, civil liberties for immigrants. Attorneys such as myself and other attorneys, we're still here in the business of winning cases for our clients. It's gotten more difficult, I'm not gonna lie, but this is not the time to, to give up. This is the time to just make sure you know what your rights are, because there's a lot of wrong information out there. The administration is giving the impression that if you leave the United States, you get to come back. And that is not true. They're telling people to self-deport. And that is a myth. You cannot deport unless you have an order of deportation. Now, if there's no order of deportation and you leave, you're not deporting, you're just leaving. And there are consequences to that. There are consequences to that. Because if you leave after you've been in the United States for a certain period of time, you may not be able to come back for at least 10 years. And for some people, they may not be able to come back at all. And so the important thing before you leave, if you decide you want to leave, is to decide if there's any other pathway that may allow you to stay. Because I know of people who could have filed for a T visa because they had been trafficked, but they left. And the thing about a T visa, once you leave, the trafficking episode is gone. Right? Or they could have qualified to file VAWA, but they left. And now they have to file VAWA from outside the United States. And, there are consequences to the fact that they overstayed, And we even had a client that was already a US citizen, but he didn't know it. And we were able to help him discover that he was already a US citizen. He'd been in this country for a very long time, since he was maybe 3 or so. He had a green card. He was a US citizen because his mother became a citizen before he turned 18, and he was in custody of his mother. So there are a lot of information out there that non-attorneys do not know. So it's important for you to know so that you can make the best decision for yourself. And it's important for you not to listen to the rhetoric out there, to listen to what people are saying, to listen to what even the news outlets are saying, because some of them do not know immigration law. All right, so let me answer some questions, and then, and then we will call this a day. And I also wanted to talk about two things. Actually, there were two more things I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about N400 interviews, naturalization. So your immigration journey does not end until you become a US citizen. But a lot of people think that going for the naturalization interview is really just an easy process. Not really. Today, it's always been the case that immigration has the right to check back on whether you got this, how you got this green card. So if you got your green card through a US citizen, that you through marriage to a US citizen, they have the right to go back and ask questions about that marriage if you're not married anymore. Okay, so it's always important to talk to an immigration attorney so you can be properly screened to determine whether it's a good idea for you to put in an application for naturalization, right? And also, there's also additional, this administration has basically put in a process where they're interviewing everybody for marriage-based cases. And not only are they, interviewing people, they're no longer waiving interviews, but they're doing a lot of Stokes interviews, right? Stokes interviews are when they separate you, the couple, and they ask you questions and they want your answers to be identical. Right now, you may think, well, I'm in a bona fide relationship, it's a real marriage, I don't have anything to be afraid of. And that's not true. Because I've told you guys this before, treat your marriage-based interview like you're going for a job interview. Be prepared to answer questions that you may have forgotten. So it's a good idea for you to get prepped, talk to your spouse, remember important things. They're going to always ask you certain questions. How did you meet? Who proposed to who? Sometimes they'll ask about your daily routine. And I always suggest that if you're going to go for an interview, you want to go with an attorney. And the reason is because a lot of times there's a lot of pressure being put on the US citizen to withdraw their petition, right? And sometimes if that US citizen has some criminal background, they use that to threaten them. They use that to threaten them that they're going to put them back, put them in jail or get them in trouble. And because they're afraid, they withdraw the petition. But if you're with a lawyer, that's not likely to happen because the lawyer is going to be at your interview and the lawyer is going to be at your spouse's interview. And sometimes, a lot of times, the presence of a lawyer will put a stop to all of these shenanigans. So if you're going for an interview, regardless of how strong your bona fides are, you really should go with a lawyer. As a matter of fact, it's a good idea to file your case with a lawyer because my firm, we don't like to take cases when all you have is an interview. And the reason is because we don't know anything about your case. We want to make sure that your case is properly filed. We want to make sure there's no misrepresentation. And if there is, we want to be able to assist you and guide you into maybe filing the right papers. Maybe you need a waiver, right? So don't think that filling out the forms yourself and then just calling an attorney to go for the interview is the best pathway. Really, it's not. It's a good idea to have the attorney file the papers. They know your case. They go through your evidence. And so if during the questioning there's a question that's improper, there's right there to defend you. They're right there to, basically speak up, So you want to be aware of that. And again, with regards to traveling outside the United States, at this point, I'm going to say if you're not, if you don't have a green card, I would suggest maybe something you want to kind of hold off on if it's not an emergency, because the rules with regards to who gets in through the border and who doesn't is really flexible. And so nobody can guarantee you that you're going to be able to come back. All right, let me answer some questions. I'm excited to get to that now. So hi, Abubakar. Hi, Kadian again. And Abubakar says, give me your WhatsApp. I want to call you about my situation. My fiance is in the United States. I need you to help me for the visa. I've been in Turkey in 2021. I stayed there for 3 years in Istanbul. So Abubakar, you can send us an email to support@odunlamilaw.com. I know we have a WhatsApp number, but I really don't remember that number. So send an email to us, and somebody will reach out to you and schedule. If you want to talk to us, we can schedule a Zoom hearing so that you can talk to us regardless of where you are. Okay. Ahmed Gaba says, is there a way to check my VAWA case states accept my online account, and how can I connect to the Vermont Center without a lawyer? And should I change the address from my lawyer to my address? So Ahmed, VAWA will not give you any information about your case. And that really is to protect you. They typically will send that information through your lawyer. So if you don't want your lawyer to represent your interest anymore, then have your lawyer withdraw, and your lawyer will withdraw from the case and give them your address as the way to correspond with you going forward. Okay. All right, let's go to Instagram. Let's answer some questions on Instagram. All right. All right. Let's see. So Dave Vix, the boss, says, my mother's I-130 is over a year and no reply yet. Dave Vix, did you get a receipt notice? Because if you got a receipt, they got it. And it's over a year. I think I-130s are taking just about that, over a year, right? So even though the ones for parents typically take less than that, but it's a new administration. They're doing so much. They're doing too much. So there's going to be a delay with a lot of things that are being processed. So maybe what you can do, Davix, is send an e-inquiry to them. What's going on with my case? And just follow up with them. But it's not unusual, for the I-130 to be pending over a year. Okay, so I wouldn't worry as yet. You can also call your congressman to see if they can assist you in following up on that. Okay. All right, let's see. I'm looking for questions on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, hey, put your question on, okay? Because if I don't see any questions on Instagram, I'm going to move to TikTok. I'm still looking. Okay, here's a question. Okay, Mayor says, I have not received my prima facie since almost 2 years, and my lawyer has reached out so many times. What is likely the issue? So, Mayor, well, thank you for referring a client to us. Sometimes USCIS just doesn't get it right. So what we typically do is we send a letter, and we've been able to receive the prima facie, but not receiving the prima facie does not mean your case is going to be denied. I had a case one time that we never got a prima facie on that case, and the client was approved. I don't know why that was. And it was a case where our client it was like 4 clients, our client with 3 kids, and there was no prima facie on any of them. And that was during COVID anyway, so who knows? But they did get their green card. They did get their VAWA approved. So I wouldn't read too much into it, but if you need a prima facie because you need it for some benefit, then I think just have your attorney keep sending out a letter, because we've sent letters out and we've always gotten a response. So I'm not sure why they're not responding to you, but I don't think you should read anything into it. Okay. So support email, I don't know how to pin things. I'm going to Google how to pin things, but let me tell you what a support email is. It's support@odunlamilaw.com. So that's support@odunlamilaw.com. Or you can call us at 973-993-1900. Okay. And if you're in any doubt, you can go to my website, and I think you can make a call through my website as well. So Joshua says, can you throw a little bit on light on D260 visa? I'm not sure what your question is, Joshua. Can you rephrase that? So Sevanton says, if you have a priority date of November 2024, when can you get a date for interview for marriage-based green cards? So, Sevan, I'm going to ask you, if it's a marriage-based green card, then I'm presuming that your spouse is a green card holder. So I don't know when you can get an interview, but it really depends on, your situation. Are you outside the country? In which case, you do have to wait until they call you, and sometimes it takes a while depending on what country you are in. If you're in the United States and you're talking about priority dates, like I said, you must be with a green card holder, and I'm presuming that your in legal status. So the thing to do is to go to the visa bulletin and just take a look at what cases they're working on, and at some point, as long as you filed your I-485, you should get called for an interview, but I can't tell you when that would be. Montfort Jean says, if your son put anything, how long that guns take now? I don't really understand your question, unfortunately. Can you rephrase it? So Otaku says, how many months do I need to stay in the United States after my green card to apply for naturalization as a spouse of a U.S. citizen? So Otaku, to apply for naturalization as a spouse of a U.S. citizen, if you're still married to your spouse and you're in marital union, you guys are living together, life is, okay, you're not separated or anything, then you can apply for naturalization on the 3rd anniversary of your green card. Typically, I would say 90 days before the 3rd anniversary of your green card, you can apply for your naturalization. If you're no longer with your spouse, you're divorced, you're not living together anymore, you want to wait for 5 years. All right. And with regards to how long you need to stay, remember that naturalization has a physical presence requirement. You have to be here for at least half of, whether it's 3 years or 5 years, whichever rule you're going to follow, you have to be in the United States for at least half of that. And you want to make sure you haven't been out of the United States for 6 months or longer at a time, because that may call into question your continuous presence. So I'm still on Instagram, and Believer said, what are the RFE on VAWA case after 3 years? I don't understand that question either. Okay, Toby Loba says, I got here with another person's passport and now you have a kid that is 18. Any hope for you? So Toby Loba, if you came here with somebody else's passport, what that means is that your child is not going to be able to file for you because there was some misrepresentation or fraud. And while you can file a waiver, your child cannot be a qualifying relative. So there are other pathways that may allow you to file a waiver and you can still get your green card. So just because you came here on somebody else's passport, as long as it's not an American passport, there may be a pathway depending on what you qualify for, but your child is not going to be that person. And your child would have had to be 21 to file for you. But if you have any misrepresentation or fraud, that's not gonna, your child cannot file for you. So talk to an attorney and see if you have any other pathways. All right, if you're here in the United States, okay? Do you have a U.S. citizen parent who's a green card holder parent? That person could be a qualifying relative. Do you have a U.S. citizen or green card holder spouse? And if you're in the United States, you might be able to qualify for humanitarian-based pathway. All right, let's look at TikTok because I've done a lot of questions and question and answer on Instagram. So let me go to TikTok. So Fumieko says, do you assist with EB1? No, Fumi, I do not do EB1. Let's keep going on. Let's see. All right. Leo says, I have my I-485 interview a couple of days. USCIS sent me an RFE for medical. Is that good or bad? Well, first of all, it's always good to get an RFE for medical, but don't bask in that and think everything's going to be, smooth sailing. You still have to prepare for your interview. you still want to make sure that you go over, first of all, go over all the documents you submitted. Go over questions, like just Google Stokes interview. There's some random questions there. You and your spouse, just, look through those questions, and just, for those that don't have really good memory, like I find that a lot of men don't remember the dating process. So you might want to go over how you guys met, just to make sure that, he does remember it the way it actually is. And the thing is, if you're at an interview and you don't remember something, don't just make up something, just say you don't. They ask you, what is the color of your husband's toothbrush? I don't know. I never looked at it. I don't even know the color of my toothbrush. Don't answer questions. Just don't guess. Okay. Because that could come back to haunt you. All right. So GW says, how long will it take to receive a U visa if I'm applying this year? U visa is taking a really long time. We're looking at 7, 8, maybe even more years. Yeah. So Prophet Prince says, I'm a pastor from Ghana. How can you assist me in the church worker visa? So Prophet, their requirements for the R1 visa, the first requirement is that you've been a member of a church here in the United States for at least 2 years. That is non-negotiable, okay? And that church or that religious institution has to be a properly organized non-for-profit, right? It has to have been duly formed under the I think it's 501c3 maybe, but under the proper rules. And then the church has to be willing to file for you. They have to be able to give you, well, you're a pastor, so definitely if you were a member of a church that was here in the United States and that church was willing to file for you, there's a job for you there. But you don't have to be a pastor to have the benefits of the R1 visa. You can be somebody who sings in a choir. You can be something else. But so the answer to you, Prophet, is you have to have somebody willing to file for you, and that you have to be a member of that church, and that church has to be duly designated as a non-for-profit. All right. All right. So, like Haitian TPS will expire August 3. Can someone travel outside the country right now? Novellas, I would not recommend that, but if that's something, if you want to travel, I'm going to tell you to talk to an attorney. But I personally am in the not recommending people leave this country right now. The Catholic Church is telling its priests not to leave. The schools are telling their students not to leave. Everybody is basically just trying to be risk averse at that time because we don't understand the rules that this administration is working with. So, all right. Indian says, I have my I-485 and I-130 interview Thursday. I'm nervous. Indian, I gave a couple of, advice, go through your stuff with your spouse, make sure and another thing you can do is update your evidence. So when you submitted your evidence, you might have been newly married, you might not have had a lot of stuff. Now, after so many months, you should have more bona fides to submit, more utility bills, more pictures. Make sure they're pictures that show a slice of your life. Don't send selfies and the same picture of you wearing the same outfit like 200 times. That's not helpful. And just, prepare with your spouse to the best of your ability and get there on time. Answer questions that you're asked. If you're put in a Stokes hearing, don't be nervous. Both of you just answer questions. And I wish you the very best, okay? People are getting their green cards every day, so don't assume that it's going to be a problem, but just don't take it for granted, okay? Just prepare and do your best, okay? And if you have a lawyer, your lawyer will be able to sit in at the interview, okay? Good luck. So Nanteza said, I have been visa to visit my son because I'm not American, broke the law. I'm not sure what that means. So I can't answer that, unfortunately. So Richard Murphy says, is it a good time to marry and go for your green card? Well, Richard, as long as it's a bona fide marriage, why not? You know, if that's what you want to do, and your spouse or your significant other also wants to do that, then that's a good, you know, why not? You know, but I would also recommend that you talk to an attorney because we want to make sure you have no inadmissibilities. So let me come to YouTube and take some questions from YouTube. Nubi says, my sister has a removal, but she filed for VAWA for 28 months. Her spouse is a U.S. citizen. She filed for VAWA without adjustments yet because she's in removal. Now she doesn't have a work permit. What do you think she can do? So Nubi, not much, because if she's in removal already, she can file an adjustment of status in, you know, if she with her VAWA, you know. But I'd be curious to know if she qualifies for VAWA cancellation or removal. I don't know what's going on with her removal case, but it might be a good idea for her to talk to a lawyer and see if there's any way for her to get a green card. Sorry, not a green card, a work permit while she is in removal, while she's in the removal process. But typically, if you file an affirmative VAWA petition without an adjustment of status, you're not going to get a work permit, okay? All right. All right, so I'm going to, let's see, I think I literally have a couple more minutes and then I'm going to head out. Pack Home says, I dropped my I-693 at the local office after I-485 interview. No update. What should I do? So, you know, this happened to one of our clients. We had advised him not to basically put in the mail, let us put in the mail to you for you. And he went ahead and dropped it. Well, the good news is, even though he didn't hear from USCIS for a while, he did ultimately hear from them and got his green card. So if you dropped it, chances are it's okay. Okay, but for those who have an option to drop it, I'm going to recommend that you send it with a mail that is trackable. You know, FedEx, Priority Mail. Make sure you can track it to show that they received it and they signed for it. But Pack Home, you know, I wouldn't worry. Okay, just give it some time. Okay. All right. So John says TPS for Cameroon ends. Yes, we're expecting that. So the only advice is, do you qualify for something else? Maybe T visa, U visa, maybe asylum. You know, let's see. So Fatu says, what is petty offense exemption for citizen? It depends. What were you charged with? When you have a charge, it goes to, when you have a criminal or a criminal charge, and there's no petty offense exception. I think there's a petty offense exception for a green card. You know, so that's for a green card holder. But if you have a criminal record for citizenship, it goes to good moral character, and sometimes it might be better to wait for the look back period, depending on what it is. So I always tell people, if you have any kind of run-in with the law, you want to talk to an attorney to make sure that it's not something that could be a problem, because if it's something that could be a problem, you might want to, you know, go back and fix whatever agreement you had with the court or whatever plea you took, you know. So a lot of times you really just need to talk to a very experienced lawyer so that you can make sure that you don't get into a difficult situation. Okay, so Auntie Edwa says, my I-751 was denied in 2023. And last month I received a letter from USCIS saying my interview was canceled. Please, what does that mean? Are they going to approve your case? It doesn't sound like it. If they denied your I-751, then you don't have a green card anymore. So they denied it already. So I'm going to suggest that you talk to an attorney. If you want us to assist you, give us a call, 973-993-1900, because a lot of times, even though your I-751 was denied, you could refile if you have a basis for refiling. and refiling would put you back into your green card status. So if your I-751 was denied, you no longer have a green card, and it's important for you to do something about it really quickly, because typically when an I-751 is denied, they put you in removal proceedings, typically. All right, guys, I will I'll chat with you guys again. It was nice reaching out to you guys again. I wasn't able to do a live last week, was really busy, but I'm glad I was able to come in today, and I wish you guys, a really great evening, okay? And we'll be in touch again. Take care. Bye-bye.